Let's talk about lights, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Do, 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 do. So this is a level. This is apparently a first-person template. And as you can see, it's got a sky and it's all brightly lit for the daytime. You can see all the boxes and stuff are pretty well like the player. I need to bring the player start above there and the camera too. So you can see that these are just real super default lighting for outside midday is kind of what Unreal has going on. Now all these things, right, receive light from the level um, in um, in the same way where they distill it. So right now I have this skylight, um, which is causing all this ambient stuff. But I think there's actually another light in there, a directional light. What is this one doing? Yeah, the directional light is providing the ambient light, and the skylight is providing another juice light. So um, when you go in here, you can see this. Generally, it's this directional light. So if you would like to have a nighttime thing in your game rather than a daytime thing in your game, then you need to only go in here and you can turn down the temperature whoosh, on the nightlight. Hold on a second. So let's turn off the skylight because what we have here are two things working in tandem. So if I turn this off, well, I had that off, and then I go back and grab the directional light, I can turn down the intensity of the directional light. I'll leave the temperature alone. Don't touch that one. So you can see that this is almost down to nothing. Once you get this number past 1, right? So if we put in here, like 2 zeros and a 5, 005. Let's try 1 0 and a 5. Whoa. Okay. How about just 1? Where does that get us? Okay. How about, it's really touchy. 0.5. Okay, so this would be considered kind of like 7 o'clock at night, about this time of year. Equate, when you're doing lighting, you want to equate season, right? Because season will give you temperature, location. Those location will influence your lighting choices, and then time of day. Some games, like the Zelda games, right, have a clock on them so that the light during the morning time, it gets dark and then it gets light again, and it keeps going on like that. But it makes for a better sort of experience, a feel. So now if we turn this light back on, the skylight, I think it's just that's just reflecting clouds. I'm not exactly sure what that's doing. Let's leave it turned off because I don't really need it at the moment. The other thing you can do, right, this is using white light, very little white light at the moment. So you can click on this and then you can change the color. So a very kind of game tropey sort of thing is like, oh, I want it to be night. So then all you have to do is change your screen to a blue. And you can choose how much blue, or if you'd like it darker or more saturation. I find that um, you get a more believable, because the problem is with a video game, right, is you still need to be able to see what the heck you're doing. So even though, and I'll go ahead and play this, it might ask me to build it. Yeah. Even though it's dark, I made my scene dark. Where'd my gun go? Um, the skylight turned on. But I mean, so you can see this is kind of looks like nighttime. Um, but the main reason you would do this, um, if you wanted to have, is because you're looking to um, do highlights instead of a broad spectrum. Like when that was cranked up and it was white, right? You could see everything perfectly, which is kind of what you want in a game. But if you'd like to have this be kind of, more directed or more interesting, or just have a nighttime thing, then you can't leave it like this because it's hard to see what the heck you're doing. So unless that's part of the gameplay, like you're carrying along a flashlight with you, um, you can't leave it like this dark because it's a pain in the butt and nobody will want to play your game. Like this is good for saying that it's nighttime out. And if it, like I said, if it's part of the gameplay where you need to use a flashlight, or you're supposed to try and find your way in a darker environment, then great. But um, not. Usually not. Not. Usually, you'd want to add like a point light in here. And you can see now that, and if I put the point light here, that if I go over here, I'll just hit simulate. So you can see that that now draws attention to that one spot. Like you still have your nighttime here, but now that one spot is lit up a little bit better. And you can do this with you have various kinds of lights that you can use. This is so a point light is like a lantern, right? And you can see that now in this whole thing, uh, even if I'm up here looking down at it, I'm like, wait, there's something that I'm supposed to be looking at. So I'm using light here as a device to direct the player in some sort of a way. We're using light to we're using light to affect gameplay. So universal to all lights, right, are intensity and color. So for instance, this light is white right now, but I could make that a red light and full intensity. Um, okay, and then right now the intensity is 1, but I can make it a lot. Oops, sorry. Intensity is 1, and I can make it a lot hotter or more bright, up to 160. And then you can also affect the distance that light casts light. So like there, right, it's just like a little tiny bit. So if you're making like a flashlight, this is what you would use as the attenuation radius. Or if you wanted to spread light, like however far that capsule will go is how far that light will be shown. as long as the intensity is there. So at full intensity, right, if I lower the intensity, then it still shows this far. It just doesn't show, it's just harder to see. And so if you want to have a flashing light, you can animate this inside. You can create a cinematic that allows you to animate this. I think I showed you the red light before, didn't I? Didn't I go through lighting before? I'm remembering that I went through lighting before.